folks, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making some bread rolls. I'm using my stand mixer. It's one of my favorite recipes for bread and or bread rolls. So another way you could utilize this recipe is by using like cheese, bacon, some pizza sauce on top of them when they're ready to get cooked, and they make like the most delicious bread that you would buy from like Coles or Safeway, you know, the pull apart loaves. So yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite. It's very soft, delicious bread. Totally worth the calories, just FYI. So that's what we're going to be making today. I've got all the ingredients already laid out in front of me. So I've already prepared my yeast, which was warm milk, sugar, and obviously yeast. So I normally keep my yeast in the freezer to stop it going bad because I don't make a lot of bread. So I make, like with this recipe, if you have fresh yeast or you know, non-expired yeast that you keep in the cupboard, you can absolutely use that, and you don't even need to kind of divide this part of the process up. You can just dump the milk, yeast, sugar, butter and everything into the bowl all at the start. You don't need to let your yeast actually activate. It's just I was worried mine wouldn't activate because it's been in the freezer and it's been very cold. So putting it in the warm milk made it activate a little bit quicker. So if you keep your yeast in the freezer, put it into the warm milk with your sugar, because that helps activate the yeast. And then once that started bubbling and getting active and you know that it's alive still, then you can go and put everything into the bowl. We have butter, we have a couple of eggs, we have some flour. I'll put all the ingredients down in the description like I usually do. But basically what we're going to do is just put it all together, dough hook on your stand mixer. As you can see here, we have a dough hook, and then from there we'll mix it up until it's all kind of smooth. So let's get started. So here we are, this is our warm milk with our yeast and sugar. So I don't use regular cow's milk because we just don't buy it. So I'm using almond milk, and I'm fairly certain you can use whatever milk you have. I've also made it with soy milk before. So if you're a regular milk drinker or a soy or whatever kind of milk you would normally use, just use that. That is completely fine. So we're just going to put that into our mixing bowl. 488 grams of warm milk, 2 tablespoons of instant dry yeast or 20 grams of instant yeast, 50 grams of white sugar, and we now have 2 teaspoons of just salt. We have 6 tablespoons or 80 grams of melted butter. So I just melted this in the microwave on the melt setting for butter for a minute. We have 2 eggs here. We also have my handy dandy favorite spatula. This is 750 grams of all-purpose flour. I'm actually using baker's flour because I don't have all-purpose flour at the moment. So there we have some of the flour left over, which we'll add in again later. So you're adding about 5.5 cups at the start. I'm just going to bang that onto our mixer here. And we're just going to whiz this up. So we're just going to put it on low for the beginning, just to incorporate it. Otherwise it'll, as you know, you put flour, you just get flour everywhere. So we're going to put that on low until it mixes in, and then it's all kind of hydrated, and then we'll turn it up. Alright, so that's incorporated now, so I'm going to turn on to about a medium speed, and also use a spatula to kind of scrape down the sides because you don't want any shaggy bits of flour when you're finished with all this. So just remember, when you're putting the flour in, you want to just incorporate it again before you turn it back on and turn it up, otherwise you'll end up with a big mess. The rest of our flour is in now, and we're just going to turn it back on and keep beating it until it starts to kind of pull itself away from the bowl. I would say this is a pretty good consistency. You'll see that while it's sticking to the actual spatula, if you go to the dough, it'll then want to stick to the dough and it kind of cleans off the spatula. That's what we want. We want it so that it's not so sticky that it just keeps coming off onto the spatula, and then it cleans itself. I would say that's pretty good, and I'm not a professional, by the way, so this is just how I feel I would go off by having zero idea. I'm not a baker or anything like that. So show you a bit of a close-up. See how it folds in on itself, and it wants to stick to itself, and it wants to take all the dough with it. That's what I'm looking for. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get another bowl and give it a wipe down with, spray it with some oil, and I'm going to dump that in there, and then we're going to let this rest. You want a bowl, obviously this is going to rise, so you want a bowl that it can actually grow in. Alright, so that's our dough out into a bowl. It's been that's been greased, so it won't get stuck to the bowl as it's rising, so it'll actually let it rise. Okay, I'm going to let this sit for an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's pretty cold in my house, so I'm going to go put this in a warm room with the heater on, and it should expand, and it might even take less than that. But basically, we want it to get, it'll pretty much, I guess, double in size, and then we'll come back. Alright, so we have our dough fully risen now. It has been rising for, I'd say, an hour and a half. I did lose track of time, and I didn't set a timer because I'm a goose. So what we're going to do now is take the plastic off, and we're going to give it a bit of a punch down. You can see that it has risen quite a lot, and that's why we use the big bowl scales here. And I'm basically just going to try and get every bowl to be roughly the same size, so that we get 12 of these. They're going to be quite large. These are normally made for this batch is normally made for dinner rolls, so you can normally get 24 out of it, but I will make burger rolls, and we'll get 12. $50 per bread roll. So we'll grab this now, and we'll just kind of smooth it out into a bowl. Now it is a pretty sticky dough, don't stress about that, and that's why you should keep your fingers oiled so that doesn't stick as much. It doesn't have to be perfect. They're going to taste exactly the same no matter what they look like. There we have our bread rolls. So we got 10 at around 150 grams per bread roll. The last one definitely wasn't 150 grams. It was just whatever was left over. So we got about 9 equal-ish sizes. I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to baking. I'm going to eat them either way. Doesn't matter. I'm not selling them. They are going to be delicious. So they might look a bit rough now, and it doesn't really matter. They will rise again for now, so I'm going to let them rest for another hour, and then we'll put them into the oven and cook them. But yeah, you could have made them at 100 grams. These are going to be quite big rolls, but we're going to make burgers with them later, so the bigger the roll, the better. So that's it. Let's let them rest for an hour now and come back in a bit. Glad wrap again, but I'm going to spray the Glad wrap with some spray oil, just so that when we pull it off, it doesn't completely like tarnish their finished surface. So I'm just gonna grab this and pop it over the top, and then go and put these in a warm room, or if you have a proofing oven or some other really warm space for these. Okay, so our bread rolls are ready. And they're super delicious. I'm just going to, while they're still hot, we're going to spread some butter on top of them. We're just going to pull them apart. And look at that, pull like real life bread from the shop. Still very warm. Which is the best way to eat bread.
Fluffy. Came up good, Mum.
Thanks.
Good.
10/10, would eat again?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
I like that.
Soft.
Yeah, I'm going to have one with jam later on.
Thanks. Hey! Hey there. As you can see, I'm currently editing my video. And I realized that because we started eating the bread and Matt was distracting me because he was in the kitchen eating the bread, I totally forgot to make any kind of outro. So here I am doing an outro now, so I didn't end on just like bang, we've just tried some bread. Because I'm doing this, I'm going to give you some notes and what I've realized during editing and also after cooking is that my rolls ended up being way too big. 150 grams was way too large, and especially for the tray that I used. You know, cooking is all about learning and experimenting. Normally I don't even weigh my dough when I'm making bread rolls. I would normally just make balls, didn't really matter on the size as long as they look similar, and I'd throw them into a deeper dish, and normally it's a pull apart loaf, but I was making burgers so I wanted them to be separate. At the end of the day, they still tasted great. I'm just saying that if you want smaller rolls, use less dough and don't make them 150 grams like I did. Make them about 100 to 120 grams, I would say, for like a burger roll, and put them closer in on the tray so they don't end up rising over the side of the tray, because one of the things is obviously they're going to rest again, and yeast makes things rise. That's what it does. So they will grow and they will be bigger than what you actually measure them out to be, obviously. So keep that in mind when you're making yours, but definitely give this recipe a try because it's super easy, it's super delicious. If you don't have frozen yeast, then you don't need to even do the whole activating yeast step, and it's literally put everything into a bowl, mix it up until it's ready to go, and then rise it for a couple of hours in total, right? Super duper easy, super duper delicious. Give it a go. If you do, or if you don't, if you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to. I don't care, you do you. But we'll see you next time, because with these rolls I am making burgers, so Big Mel's or Big Mac's, a rip-off Big Mac. So give that a shot, give that a watch next, and we'll see you in that video. Bye.